Fiducia Supplicans declaration has not created division in the Church. What it has done is to expose the division that already existed. The most striking thing, it seems to me, has been the collective rejection of the Episcopal Conferences of Africa to the application of the declaration in their countries. A rejection nuanced this week, because Cardinal Lopez Romero, Archbishop of Rabat, has said that the bishops of North Africa were not allowed to give their opinion, because although they had been consulted, Cardinal Ambongo published a response to the declaration before the deadline given to all the Episcopal conferences had expired. Therefore, they somehow feel excluded from this rejection of Fiducia Supplicans. They have made their own. They have given their own response, which is with some nuances different from what the other rest of the African bishops. But if there is division, if there are two parts, it is because on one hand, there are those who have rejected the declaration. I repeat, with more or less nuances that have always and in all cases aimed at not offending the Pope and not to confront him. And on the other hand, there are those who have enthusiastically accepted Fiducia Supplicans within this group. Of course, the Catholic Church in Germany stands out. They are not the only ones, but the Catholic Church in Germany within the group of enthusiasts is the most part. And therefore, I think it's appropriate to know some data on how the Church is in this country. Some years ago, it was published, that for the next few years the Church in Germany was going to be forced to close more than 40,000 parishes, parish houses, pastoral centers. And why? It seems incredible, but the reason is that there is no money. It is the richest church in the world, and yet it is so because it establishes the religious tax and threatens with apostasy and excommunication to those who do not pay this tax. Those who do not pay the tax are declared apostates and therefore cannot participate in certain acts of the Church. Many people, for fear of this pay, it is the richest church, and yet they think of closing centers of all kinds depending on them because they see that the pays they're going to run out of money. And what is this pace to which they go? For example, in the year 2022, there is no data yet for 2023, which has just ended. In 2022, more than 500,000 Catholics officially left the Church. 523,000, which represents 45 more abandonments than in the year 2021, which was already a very high figure and the highest that had occurred until then. More than 500,000 abandoned the Church in 1 year, officially, because as long as you do not pay the tax, you are officially out of the Church. You have renounced to be Catholic, and it is registered in the baptism certificates. You are no longer a Catholic. You have abandoned the Church. If you do not pay, you are not a Catholic. Well, more than 500,000 have left the Church. In 10 years, 739 monasteries have been closed in Germany, and this week it has been learned that the Diocese of Edinburgh, which is headed by Monsignor Batzing, who is the president of the German Episcopal Conference, and which has in its territory the important and the rich city of Frankfurt. That diocese in the year 2023 has not ordained any priest, which is the first time that this has happened in its entire history. Something even much worse, a news that comes to me directly from the parish in Berlin. The pastor has announced to his collaborators that by order of Archbishop Monsignor Koch in this parish and the Diocese of Berlin, it will be possible to give communion to Protestants as long as they are married to a Catholic. If a Protestant, usually a Lutheran, comes to communion and is married to a Catholic, he can receive communion. This is sacrilege, and it is a dreadful sacrilege, much more serious than anything else. And yet, this is already public. Not only was it done, but it was already public notice to the German parish priests to do. Well, this German church, in this great crisis, without clergy, and with a tremendous loss of faithful every year, presents itself as the winner, and also presents itself as the future of the church. On one side, we have a poor, martyr church, which is the church in Africa, but which is rich in vocations, which is continually growing. On the other side, we have a rich church, well off, but without vocations, and with a dreadful loss of faithful every year. The logical thing would be to look to the church in Africa, that poor and martyr church, to look at it as the model to follow, and instead, the Germans say that they are the model to follow, that they give their arguments. They say that with fiducia supplicans, the most important thing has not been the acceptance of blessing of couples in an irregular situation, including homosexual couples, because they say we're already doing this, and what they have told us is now we can do it legally. But they say this has not been the most important thing. The most important thing, according to the Germans, what makes them sing victory and present themselves as the future, is something that was presented as untouchable within the doctrine, is now allowed, and not because there has been a doctrinal change of something that was declared true 100 years ago or 500 years ago, or something that was forbidden 500 years ago and is now permitted, but because that change has taken place within 2 years and under the same Pope, say the Germans. If in 2021 it is forbidden to bless irregular couples, and in 2023, with the same Pope, it is permitted to bless irregular couples, with the theological flourish of a new type of pastoral blessing that, according to the author, did not exist before. But in practice, even if it's insisted that the union is not blessed, even if it's insisted that the extramarital sexual relationship, it's still considered a sin. The Germans say, if in 2 years the doctrine has changed, and what was forbidden is now allowed, we have sufficient reason to believe that we are in a situation where other things will also be allowed that are now forbidden. And what is considered a sin will cease to be considered a sin and will be even considered a path for sanctification. This is their thesis, their right. Has the Church of Certainties, so necessary in a liquid world, in a world full of doubts, has the Church of Certainties of St. John Paul II, to which the theologian Ratzinger helped so much, disappeared? Has Pope Benedict XVI's struggle against relativism in the Church has been defeated? Has doubt been introduced within fiducia supplicans? Has doubt been introduced within the Church in such a way that now there is no longer anything that can be considered solid and firm and immovable, because what was once considered impossible is now permitted, and what is today considered impossible and sinful, and what you will, it's not known if tomorrow, sooner or later, will be considered possible and even recommendable? Are we in a church that is entrenched in doubt and therefore entrenched in moving within relativism? These are decisive questions. The Germans have it very clear. They have won. They are the church of the future. And they say it. All this time they have not put the accent on the fact that couples in an irregular situation can be blessed. They have put the accent, what they consider their victory and their future, in the fact that a change has taken place, and that in 2 years what was forbidden is now allowed. This is what they say. They are right. Well, I do not think it will take long to find out who is right and if the church of the future will go the way of the German church, or if it will go the way of the African martyr church. Let us pray.